Hello, I'm Bud McCord. I'm in Brazil, South America. Welcome to Food for Thought, Thinking with Jesus. I hope you're ready to take your thoughts to Jesus, and you can think with Jesus because you have the mind of Christ. The subject of today's devotional for November 12, 2020 is God Speaks with His Hand. God speaks with His hand. It's a beautiful metaphor that we read in the Old Testament about the way God deals with His people, the way God deals with us. An author named Oswald Chambers once said, God orchestrates our circumstances to educate our faith. And the hand is a beautiful metaphor of getting someone's attention. The combination of our hands and our eye and our voice is designed for us to be able to attract attention and say something we need to say to someone else. So God speaks with His hand. Let me read the devotional, then we'll think together. For the Lord, in Isaiah 8:11 says, "For the Lord spoke thus to me with a strong hand." Let me read it again. For the Lord spoke thus to me with a strong hand. How does God speak with His strong hand? The same way a parent speaks to a child with his or her strong hand. The parent takes hold of the child's circumstances with a strong hand until the child will finally be still and listen. When God speaks to us by taking hold of us and our circumstances, it is unmistakable. When God speaks with a strong hand, we find ourselves literally in the grip of circumstances we are powerless to overcome. We can try to fight, run, resist, or complain, but our circumstances hold us. We cannot move away. We are held too firmly by an unseen hand. By His strong hand, God gets our attention. We have come to the end of ourselves and we know it. Finally, we grow still and begin to understand that we are not God. God's strong hands brings tears of repentance to our eyes. Our tears are the stress of our resistance finally leaving us. By holding us in the grip of our circumstances, God educates us. Once we have felt the grip of God orchestrated circumstances, we are much easier to educate. We learn to be still before God. When God's hand has made its point, we know God is greater than our circumstances. We know we are really in the grip of the hand of His will and voice. Be still and know He is God. Being still and knowing He is God is such a relief. If you've parented children, if you've taken care of children and watched the kids growing up, you know that sometimes you have to put a strong hand on the child. You have to limit their area of movement. You have to say to them, no, you will listen to me. Because you know there's great danger in the world and they don't understand the danger of the world. And so you use a strong hand. Well, God does the same thing in our lives. He uses a strong hand. We know God doesn't have a hand, but we do know that when Jesus came and He had hands, we could see how Jesus used His hands. If you want to do a really interesting study in the scriptures, go into Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John and read the stories of Jesus looking for how He used His hands. How He used His hands. Because the way we use our hands in another person's life makes permanent memories. My father passed away when I was 10 years old, but I can still feel the touch of his hand. He was a man who worked on the railroad, and he worked really hard, and he had very strong hands. And I can remember the feeling of those hands. And in my case, I have very good memories of those hands. I can still feel the touch of my mother's hands. I could have good memories of my mother's hands. I know that there are bad memories associated with hands and there are good memories associated with hands. And I know that when someone tries to put a hand on you or tries to put a hand on me, if I permit it, I know that I'm in a way giving myself up to something that they really want me to pay attention to. So hands speak. And God's hands speak to you and speak to me. And sometimes God uses circumstances as his hands. And sometimes the circumstances are so strong that it is unmistakable. I personally believe that this pandemic is and has been for me, and I believe for millions and millions of people, maybe billions of people, it is the strong hand of God saying, you are not in control. You will understand that you are not God and you are not in charge. You will understand that politics cannot save you, but I can save you. I think that this worldwide pandemic is the strong hand of God talking to all of us. I just got off of a live video time on Zoom with 14 pastors in Portugal. I sit in my living room like I'm sitting here now, and I just spent an hour in a mentoring session with 14 pastors in Portugal, where the pandemic came back again in a force that is limiting all of them, and it is the strong hand. And I asked them how they were experiencing the strong hand, and each one of them, one by one, had about 3 minutes each to express, here's what I think God is saying to me with his strong hand. Really remember certain things about attention. Whatever gets your attention gets you. Whatever gets your attention gets you. Be careful by allowing unclean hands or dangerous hands. Don't give them your attention. Put your attention on the hands of God. Put your attention on the hands of Jesus. Put your attention on the hands of those who have touched you with love and touched you for your own good and even corrected you for your own good. Surround yourself with people who have hands of love and be the hands of love in the lives of other people. Remember this, that giving your attention to someone else is something precious. You only have a limited amount of attention. You only have a limited amount of time every day. You only have a limited amount of energy every day. Be careful that you give your attention to things which are pure, which are good, which are constructive, which are positive, things that God would approve. Because when you give your attention away, you're giving away something of yourself. Every time I do a devotional, or every time I do a seminar, or I preach in the church, or do retreats with leaders, at the very end, I always say, thank you for giving me your attention. I pray that I am worthy to have used some of your precious time of attention. Attention is a very, very misunderstood, a valuable commodity that you should guard with all your heart to make sure, because whatever gets your attention gets you, and to whomever you give your attention, you mark them as well. I want to encourage you to let the strong hand of God speak to you. Let the strong hand of God, if he's using circumstances and he's got you by the hand and he's pressing tightly on you by circumstances and you cannot run away and you cannot resist, then go to quiet. Go to prayer, go to attention on God, and let him speak to you, because what he will say to you when he has you quiet will serve you well when he releases those circumstances and lets you run again. He does speak with a strong hand. Pray about this. I think it's a great metaphor, and I really pray that it would be good for all of us to remember that when things are really, really tight and circumstances are surrounding us we cannot control, we as Christians can say, it is the strong hand of God. And I will be still, and I will remember that he is God. And when these circumstances release, I will move forward and glorify God by loving the people that I need to love. Have a great day. Think on these things. Remember how powerful your hands are in the life of other people. Touch people only with love. God bless you.